Behold the majesty of the Anvil Pisces. A paragon of exploration, the Pisces features a dedicated scanner, convertible cabin space, and best of all, it's designed to fit snugly within the hangar of Anvil's perennial carrack. This one, however,
fits in the palm of my hand. I'm Jax McCleary, and this is Whitley's Guide. For our premiere episode, we're here at the 2949 Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, or more precisely, above it. And this is in fact not an Anvil Pisces, but a true-scale remote-controlled replica. It's accurate down to the last detail, and I've been told it's very expensive. So, naturally, we're going to attempt to blow it up, because we're borderline obsessively committed to putting the galaxy's best gear to the test. For you. To that end, behind me you might have noticed the rather intimidating 2949 Anvil Ballista. We're about to put this mobile missile machine through the Whitley's ringer. The aim, so to speak, is to see if it really can take out our tiny target, even as I pilot it, Jimmy, the stick please, through daring evasive maneuvers. The missile we're launching is, of course, a dummy round with a diminutive explosive charge capable of taking out our tiny Pisces, but not much else. At least, that's what I've been told, and I hope it's accurate, lest the next landing zone over gets a very unfortunate surprise. Apologies in advance, Area 17.
All right then, away we go.
Well, will you look at that? It worked! And if that's not pinpoint targeting, I don't know what is.
Hello citizens, and you're probably wondering what the hell you've just seen. Well, I did as well. As I'm trying to learn more about the game, I'm coming across things like this, and it genuinely interests me to see how much they're trying to flesh out this universe that they're creating. It's essentially Jeremy Clarkson's Top Gear, but in space. But it's not just a show, it basically stems from publications called Whitley's Guide, and this is how it started. Darby Kylick and Sal Whitley worked in a repair shop in Odin. The conditions at Odin were pretty harsh for ships, meaning that they've seen a lot coming through with extreme wear or tear. After 10 years working as a mechanic and seeing certain brands and models fail again and again, Whitley decided to cultivate some very strong opinions about which ships and components their clients should be buying and obviously using. Often customers would consult with Whitley before buying a new piece of equipment to see if it met his standards. And it wasn't long before word got out and people he had never met were filling his comms with requests for recommendations. It got so bad that Sal threatened to close up shop and move away just to get people to leave him alone. But Darby had a different idea. If people wanted to know what Sal thought so badly, then why not write it all down and charge them for it? The first version took 3 months for Whitley to compile. In between shifts at the repair shop, it covered spacecraft, power plants and cooling systems. It was released on June 21st, 2856. It didn't have any images or even a formal title, but gearheads across the verse was drawn to Whitley's matter-of-fact writing style. Whitley's not only meticulously broke down all the stats of each item, but concisely summarised the ship or part's overall performance. To the surprise of both Sal and Darby, the first month of sales outperformed the whole repair shop itself. By the time 2859 rolled around, Whitley had published 2 more versions and had begun to focus full-time on writing and reviewing. The popularity of Whitley's Guide had grown to the point where manufacturers had begun to offer Sal free items, with the hopes of being included in the magazine, but without fail, he would refuse them all. It was important to him that he stayed as independent as possible so that no one could accuse him of being a sellout. Instead, he sought out second-hand items, preferring to evaluate well-used versions over fresh from factory models. He said, "Who cares what something is like when it's brand new? What's important is how it's going to be running in 6 months, a year, or even 5 years down the line." As the guide continued to grow, manufacturers weren't the only businesses to come knocking on Darby and Sal's door. In 2860, Svetlana Galavan of Galavan Publishing approached the pair with an offer to buy the publishing rights to the guide, envisioning a bound volume with pictures, layouts and diagrams. Whitley agreed to sign a 5-volume contract under the condition that he would have editorial control over all the content. Darby, however, decided that the time had come for him to move on, and chose instead to accept a buyout. He said, "I had really started to miss just being a mechanic, but it does feel pretty nice to know that I helped create something special." The relationship with Galavan Publishing had lasted well more than 5 volumes. By the end of his career, Whitley had overseen close to 100 editions of the guide that bore his name. Not only would the core guide expand to cover pretty much every part of a ship, including weapons and missiles, Galavan began to produce special editions that focused on just one individual part, but in extreme detail. The 2865 Whitley's Guide, Energy Weapons, was the highest selling publication that year. In order to keep up with the volume, Whitley hired a staff of writers, though he reviewed all their work personally to ensure he agreed with the end results. "If I'm going to have my name on something, you can be sure I'm going to read every single thing that goes in it," said Whitley. The component resale chain Dumpers Depot began including the Whitley's Guide rating for every item they sold, with one store owner stating, "Might as well save everyone some time since they're all standing there looking it up anyway." By 2880, Whitley's Guide had confirmed its place in the public's mind as the impartial, trusted resource for all things spaceships. Even with the passing of Sal Whitley in 2886, the guide has continued to be an integral resource for people across the Empire, though without its creator at the helm. There were some bumps along the way. With Sal gone, the guide for the first time began to accept test samples from manufacturers, as well as to review items before they were released publicly. While the new editors tried to maintain the standards put in place by Sal, an expose in 2895 that analysed the ratings of the past decade showed a trend that favoured items and ships manufactured by Terran companies. This led to accusations of impropriety, since Galavan Publishing is also located on Terra. Whitley's Guide claimed that it was just a case of correlation without causation, but to make it clear that they were truly independent, they reverted to Sal's original policies. However, despite this hiccup, trust has remained high in the publication, and some of the recent changes made to the guide have met with even more success. It has continued to expand in new directions, and in 2910, Whitley's Guide released their first personal armour and weapons volume. They've even experimented briefly with reviewing restaurants, though that was limited to only a single special edition. The addition of a monthly magazine as a supplement to the larger guide has also been quite popular. For nearly a century, Whitley's Guide has continued to be an instrumental resource for consumers. Thanks to the wealth of information they provide, it's hard to imagine what shopping would be like in the UAE today without their guidance. So that's Whitley's Guide. I, for one, would actually love to see basically a Haynes manual with a 2-page spread on each vehicle and ship, and I think that would be rather cool. So if CIG ever see this video, which I highly doubt, but you know what to do. So let me know in the comments if this is something that you would like to see in the future. And thank you very much for clicking on the video. Also consider joining my Discord to meet some other cool Star citizens. And I will see you in the verse.